These are the 3D VIEW-MASTER Adventures of G.I. Joe. VIEW-MASTER Reel 1. Rookies to the Rescue. Picture 1. The G.I. Joe adventure team was on a training mission in the desert land of Utah and Arizona. G.I. Joe and Sarge, his assistant, were training a group of recruits in the use of rescue and survival equipment. One afternoon, Joe set up the portable training tower near the edge of a canyon. He had rigged up an escape slide from the tower to the ground. "Nice going, Greg," he said as one recruit started down the slide. "Come on, Diego, up the ladder on the double." Red, who had flown the helicopter to the training site from the team's mobile headquarters a few miles away, watched the progress of his fellow recruits. Picture 2. Just then the men heard the buzz of a turbo-copter and Sarge flew down to join them. "Sharp-looking class you've got there, teacher," he joked to G.I. Joe. "Say, what's that flying out there over the canyon? Is it a bird, or a plane, or Superman?" Joe grinned. "That's our newest rookie, Greg, trying out the flying rescue chair with the rocket pack." Together, Sarge and Joe watched Diego take his turn going down the escape slide. Meanwhile, Luke, a Navajo Indian, started up the ladder briskly, trying to beat the others' time. "Everything's quiet at headquarters," reported Sarge. "I'm going to take a reconnaissance flight over the area. I'll keep in touch by walkie-talkie." Picture 3. It was just sundown as the team returned to mobile headquarters. Sarge was still out on reconnaissance. Shortly after they returned, Joe's walkie-talkie began to beep. He answered it. "Joe, this is Sarge," came the voice. "I'm about 3 miles due southwest of you. I saw a little burro tied to a tree right beside a deep gash in the ground. I flew over to investigate and found an old prospector down in the hole. He fell in and has hurt his leg and his head. Over." "We'll be right there," Joe promised. "Over." Picture 4. "Hang in there, old-timer," Sarge called to the prospector, shining the high-intensity beam of his signal light down into the hole. "Help is on the way. By the way, what's your name?" "Zach," said the prospector feebly. "Zach Simmons. I seen some shiny rocks down here and clumped down on that there rope. But the rope busted and I landed in a heap. Sure glad you happened along when you did." Picture 5. By the time the adventure team, riding across trackless desert land in the Jeep and its trailer, reached the place where Sarge and Zach waited for them, it was beginning to grow dark. G.I. Joe drove the Jeep as close to the edge of the hole as he safely could. In the back of the Jeep were a flying rescue unit, a rescue sling, and several coils of rope. The trailer contained a searchlight and a first aid kit. "Okay, Luke, aim the searchlight down into the hole," directed Joe. "Sarge better lead the burro out of the way." "This is Bessie," said Sarge, as if introducing the burro to the men. "Bessie, meet my partners. Come on, old gal." Picture 6. The team worked rapidly as darkness fell. "Greg," said Joe, "here's your chance to put a flying rescue chair to work in an actual situation. It hasn't got enough power to pull both you and Zach out of the hole, but if you and Sarge go down together, you can bring him up between you on the rescue sling. Sarge, you fly down into the hole with Greg. You better take the first aid kit with you. Each of you take along a coil of rope." Greg and Sarge flew down into the hole. Greg in the flying rescue, Sarge in the turbocopter. Just relax, old-timer, said Sarge as they knelt beside Zack. We are going to bandage your head and that hurt leg of yours, and then we're going to get you out of here. Picture 7. Before being pulled up, Zack insisted on bringing along some samples of the shiny rocks he had found at the bottom of the crevice. He hugged them tightly in his arm as Greg and Sarge, expertly piloting their different flying craft, brought him carefully up to ground level in the sling and laid him gently on the ground. I'm sure mighty obliged to you, gents, said Zack, as he hobbled over to Bessie and gave her an affectionate pat. Dunno what I'd had done if you hadn't have come along. Proudly he held out his shiny rocks. Ain't them pretty? He declared. I betcha there's uranium in them rocks. I'm gonna stake me out a claim here. Joe smiled. Sounds good, Zack, except for one little detail. How are you going to get the rocks out of that deep hole? VIEW-MASTER Reel 2. Peril in the Depths. Picture 1. G.I. Joe, Greg and Red were prospecting for uranium in the ocean, the greatest untapped source of this energy-producing metal. They had chosen a shallow bay in the Caribbean Sea off the coast of Puerto Rico. They had flown out from the shore by helicopter, piloted by Red. Joe, in a flying platform, skimmed along a few feet above the waves, holding a Geiger counter above the water. Suddenly, Joe saw something he had not expected, a golden glow shining through the water from below. What could it mean? Intrigued, Joe lowered his flying platform a little closer to the surface and, splash! A high wave caught him and capsized the flying platform. Joe was in the water and in trouble. Picture 2. Greg, watching from the helicopter, reacted quickly. Keep it hovering right above Joe, he told Red, while I climb down and toss him a life preserver. Greg lowered the rope ladder, carried a life preserver down and threw it to Joe, who was trying to keep himself afloat and tow the flying platform along at the same time. As Joe grabbed the life preserver, Greg pulled him close to the bottom rung of the ladder. Together the two of them carried the flying platform up the ladder to the helicopter. Thanks, panted Joe, as he entered the helicopter. Next time, I'll remember not to fly quite so low. Say, I wonder what's causing that glow in the water. Could it be sunken treasure or something? This is the old Spanish Main, you know. Let's come back out here with our scuba diving equipment. Picture 3. An hour later they were back. G.I. Joe, wearing his scuba equipment, had brought along a small amount of underwater type dynamite, in case they found something they would need to blast loose. He dived to the bottom while Greg followed on a sea slat. Joe could not see anything that reflected light. I must be in the wrong spot, he thought. I'll explore a little farther. Just then a great shadow loomed up above him. It was a mean, man-eating shark. Picture 4. Quickly Joe turned over on his back, looking up at the shark, and poised his spear gun. As the huge fish swam toward him, he aimed the weapon at it. At the same time, Greg, on the sea slat, approached with his own spear gun, ready in case Joe missed. But Joe's spear struck the shark on the side, not hard enough to kill it, but with enough force to frighten the big fish. The shark turned tail and swam away. Well, we won't see him again, said Joe into his helmet radio. Let's keep looking for the source of that golden glow. Picture 5. Exploring the sea bottom a little farther, G.I. Joe and Greg saw the golden glow just ahead of them. As they came up to it, they saw an exciting sight, an ancient Spanish sea chest, half buried in the mud of the sea bottom and partly covered with seaweed. Its lid was open, and spilling out of the chest was a heap of gold coins and ornaments. The sunlight filtering down from the surface above through the clear water caught the bright gold and was reflected back upward. This was what Joe had originally seen. "Hey, an old pirate's treasure chest," exclaimed Joe into his helmet radio. "Just like in the storybooks. This is really a find." "Joe, look," shouted the excited voice of Greg via radio. "We've got company. Look what's sitting on top of the chest, a giant squid." Joe had been so intent on the treasure that he hadn't noticed the huge mollusk, which sat partly on the lid of the chest and partly on a mound of coral beside it. Now suddenly the squid thrust out its two longest arms and seized Greg. Picture 6. G.I. Joe aimed his spear gun at the squid, but paused. Even if he shot hard enough to kill the squid, would it release its grip on Greg? Besides, he did not want to kill the mollusk, but only to force it to relax its grip. How could he do this? Suddenly he had an idea. He remembered a small quantity of dynamite he had brought with him. "Hold tight, Greg," he said into his radio. "I'm going to fix this dynamite onto the tip of my spear. It won't make a blast strong enough to hurt you, but it should make the squid release his hold on you." Picture 7. Carefully, Joe bound the dynamite onto the tip of his spear. Then he aimed the spear gun at an arm of the squid, not too close to Greg. "Here we go," he said. Bang! The dynamite exploded in a flare of light. The startled squid dropped Greg and swam away as rapidly as it could. "Hey, man, I'm free," said Greg. "Thanks, Joe. Now we'll figure out the coordinates of this location and come back with a boat," said G.I. Joe. "After all these centuries, this pirate treasure is going to be rescued, too." Jokingly, he tried to sound like a parrot. "Pieces of 8, pieces of 8. VIEW-MASTER Reel 3. The Buddha's Treasure. Picture 1. G.I. Joe. Department X wants you to investigate a plot to steal the giant emerald from the great Ceylonese Buddha. This call, which had come into mobile headquarters just 2 days before, had sent Joe and Sarge on a hurried trip halfway around the world. Now they were on the beautiful island of Ceylon, off the coast of India. It was night, and they were camping in a valley among the coconut trees only a few miles from the Buddhist temple in which stood the giant statue. By the light of a lantern, they examined a picture of the statue's head. "That emerald looks as big as a football, judging from what we know about the size of the statue," remarked Sarge. "Yes, it's the largest emerald in the world," said Joe. "It's worth a fantastic amount of money. The men who are plotting to steal it are members of an international ring of jewel thieves. We'd better get up to the temple the first thing in the morning." Picture 2. The next morning they were on their way. They had brought their portable vehicles with them. Joe, his escape car, and Sarge, his drag bike, and part of the time they rode these. Each vehicle could easily be disassembled and contained in a backpack, and much of the time they hiked along with their packs on their backs. The route led them uphill through coconut groves and past rice paddies. Before long, they reached the temple grounds. They marveled at the strange, beautiful architecture. "The great temple is over to our right," said Joe, gesturing with his arm. Picture 3. Approaching the temple, they met a few tourists, some of whom were going in and others just leaving. 2 men came out and passed them. One man carried a large leather pouch. Joe and Sarge entered the temple and gazed up at the huge statue of Buddha. Suddenly, Joe seized Sarge's arm. "The emerald," he whispered, pointing up to the Buddha's head. "It's gone." "They've struck already," said Sarge. "We're too late." "Wait a minute," exclaimed Joe. "Maybe we're not too late. Maybe we're just in time." Those 2 characters we just saw coming out. Wonder what they had in that pouch. Joe and Sarge ran out of the temple. The 2 men were just ahead of them, walking downhill toward the valley. Seeing Joe and Sarge following them, the men began to run. Picture 4. "Come on, Sarge," said Joe. "If we don't catch those scoundrels, they'll lose us in the thick vegetation and twisting paths below, and then make contact with their gang. Let's assemble our backpack vehicles." Quickly they slung the packs off their backs and set to work. So efficient were they through long practice and so ingeniously designed were the 2 vehicles that the job took only about 90 seconds flat. Joe climbed into his escape car and roared off down the hill with Sarge close behind on his drag bike. Down the step slopes they sped, along terraces, around corkscrew turns. They were able to keep the 2 fugitives in sight most of the time and knew that they were gaining rapidly on the pair despite their head start. Picture 5. Soon they were down in the valley, among the coconut groves again, and the men were just ahead, trapped by a flooded rice paddy that could not be crossed on foot. "Halt!" shouted G.I. Joe. The 2 men looked back, and the one who carried the pouch snarled something in a foreign language which sounded like a string of curses. Picture 6. The 2 vehicles skidded to a stop, and G.I. Joe and Sarge were off them in one swift movement. Sarge leaped onto the closer of the 2 men, pinning him against a coconut tree, and punched him so hard that a shower of coconuts fell down on them. Joe made a flying tackle and brought down his companion, the man with the pouch. The pouch swung into the air and flew open, and out tumbled a beautiful, huge green emerald. Picture 7. It didn't take Joe and Sarge long to tie up their 2 captives and notify the Ceylonese police, who took them into custody. But how was the emerald to be replaced in the statue? "We can do it for you," Joe volunteered to the police. From their backpacks, they took 2 long ropes. Each man made a loop at one end of his rope, like a cowboy's lasso. Entering the temple, they faced the giant statue. Joe hurled his rope upward, and a loop fastened around one of the golden spikes on the headpiece of the Buddha. Pulling the loop tight, Joe then began to climb up the rope, carrying the emerald in a net bag slung over his shoulder. Meanwhile, Sarge threw his rope up beside Joe's and followed him up so he could help place the jewel back on the Buddha's forehead. When they had finished, climbed back down and retrieved their ropes, they were thanked by the police and by the monks who served in the temple. "You came to our temple at just the right time," said one of the monks, bowing. "You have performed a service to us which will never be forgotten." And so the Buddha's treasure were restored, thanks to the alertness and the skills of G.I. Joe and his adventure team partner Sarge. We want to add new videos every day, and if you don't want to miss any of them, subscribe to our channel for free.
And press the little bell. We are also happy to have a thumb up.